Everyone, Jason here. Today we'll be learning how to create digital still life paintings based on reference photos. The techniques I'm about to share today is learned from former pixel art director Dice Setsumi's Schoolism course. The rectangular textured brush used is also from him. If you are interested to learn more about digital painting and manipulating light and color, I highly recommend learning from the master directly. The links to the course are at the video description below. Without further ado, let's begin the demo. By creating a new file with the same aspect ratio as the reference photo. This will allow me to judge the correct height when I block in the object. I usually work on a canvas that is big, so if the reference photo is quite small, I'll usually work on a size that's about 2 or 3 times that of the reference photo. To get this workspace arrangement of having the reference photo by your side, you just need to go to Window, Arrange, and select Tool Up Vertical for a portrait image like this. So as you can see, I start with a gradient. I personally find that it's less daunting to work on be it a grayscale or a colored gradient as compared to a white background. This technique extensively uses the lasso tool to create sharp edges. Now when painting on this still life or even your own original artwork, it is important to take note of edges, and keeping them in mind when you create your own artwork. And the lasso tool actually does a very good job at maintaining all these hard edges so that your painting don't look overly blurry. I try to keep each object by its own layer. It's much easier to manage. I can do very quick color adjustments. I can lock transparency and isolate the painting layer so that I don't accidentally paint outside of that object. The main difference between drawing and painting, in my opinion, is that in drawing, the most important aspect is that of the contour line. We usually place a lot of emphasis on getting the line work accurate and appealing. As for painting, it's more about identifying shapes. So the technique that I'm using right now, I'm more or less just looking at the reference photo and trying to identify what are the key shapes that made up this image. So by using the lasso tool, I'll just draw out that image and then fill it in with color. For this particular exercise, I try to keep it loose. The main objective is to try to identify the correct colors and shapes, and not about getting 100% detail accuracy. We really want to study and learn how all these objects interact with light. Over here, instead of using the lasso tool, I'm using the pen tool. The good thing about the pen tool is that it allows me a bit more control of the selected shape. Whereas the lasso tool, usually I go like freehand, and sometimes it's not super accurate, as you can see on this vase. It's not, the shape is not exactly identical to the reference photo. So again, over here I'm just suggesting the details. It's not accurate at all. It's kind of just random paint marks, but it's sufficient to suggest that that there are some details in this area. A good trick is to paint the highlights in. It sort of gives the impression that this vase is metallic and very shiny. So a very sharp highlight will indicate or suggest the material qualities of this particular object. So in summary, I mean, this whole process is about breaking each object up and try to identify the big shapes first before moving into smaller details. It sounds very very basic, right? This principle of moving from big shapes to small details. It sounds very obvious, but I think a lot of beginners kind of make the mistake of jumping straight into details. As you can see over here, I don't zoom into the canvas at all. So I'm just really focused on getting the overall big picture to be correct. When I first started, I'm also fell into the same sort of trap as beginners, in the sense that I would be really obsessed about getting details right immediately. So I paint in a way that's kind of like top to bottom or left to right, instead of working from the overall picture and then zooming in to individual portions at a later stage. So right now I'm going back in to refine the edges of the bowl of I guess they are peaches, using the lasso tool to make sure that the edges are sharp. So for objects like this, it's quite important to keep the edges sharp, and as much as possible make it easier for the viewer to sort of identify each individual peach. So I'm almost done with this. More or less it's just making sure that the colors are as close as possible. Right now it still feels that it's kind of dull looking. I like to, at the end of my paintings, I like to just add a black layer and set it to color dodge to sort of paint in the lighting and the glow. Yeah, so right now I guess I'm almost done. And that will be it for the still life exercise demo. And in retrospect, I think I could have saturated the colors a bit more. I think it's still not 100% accurate in terms of color as compared to the reference photo. So that's something that you should take note when you are doing this on your own. So I start off the portrait exercise the same way as I would the still life, by creating a new canvas, aspect ratio as the reference image. Since this is a landscape image, to create a workspace like this where I paint above the reference image, I go to Window, Arrange, and select Two up horizontal. For the reference image, I converted it into a grayscale image by going to Image, Adjustments, and select the black and white adjustment. There are multiple ways of converting a color image into a grayscale one. I just prefer to do it that way. As usual, I start off the artwork by creating a gray, by filling the canvas with a layer of gray. Again, it's because I don't like to start with a white background. And as always, it's not important to really try to achieve 100% accuracy in terms of the detail. It's more about, studying and really understanding how light affects each area, looking and really examining each tonal shape and trying to block that in. So as always, I use the lasso tool extensively at the start of the process, but for this particular portrait example, I decided to go a bit more detailed. As you can see, I'm zoomed in right now, to really get the female face right. It doesn't have to look exactly like the model over here. My objective is not about creating likeness, but more so to that of trying to paint a somewhat believable human face. Like you can imagine yourself, seeing someone like this on the street. And I think it's quite important to get the face right whenever you are painting characters, be it as a pin-up style of illustration, or it's just a character standing in an environment piece. Because I think human eyes are generally attracted to other humans. Like we cannot help ourselves but to be focused on a human character within an image, be it a photograph or an artwork. And usually the eyes is where we focus on, so it's very important to get the face right, or at least it doesn't look weird. So I'm spending a bit more time here trying to get the face correct. With the previous still life example, I didn't zoom in or go that much in detail. For this example, I'm using more of a softer brush. I'm using a feathered brush to blend out certain areas of the face, and I'm using a smaller rectangular brush to lock in the values. Again, over here you would still want to maintain your edges. For example, in the lip area, it should be still quite sharp. Whereas for the rest of the face, it's for a female character like this, I try to keep it soft. If not, she might look a bit too old. So again, I'm just referencing from the photograph where to put the major features of the face, but I'm not exactly trying to replicate her face, you know, at 100%. As you notice, I constantly flip the canvas to check the construction of the face. I'm not sure about you, but when I draw faces, it usually looks alright in one orientation, and then I'll proceed to flip the canvas horizontally, and be really shocked at how ugly the face is. So it's a method that I use very often to really check whether the face is done right. So right now I'm more or less happy with how the face is, so I'm moving on to other areas of the body. For these other areas, I'm just gonna, do the minimum to suggest out the details. I'm not going to go as in-depth as I did for the face, because it's not as important. When a viewer glances on this particular image, they would not be overly concerned about whether the texture on the shirt or the blouse is correct. It's usually the face. I mean, people can tell if the face is weird. It's just because we have been looking at faces all our lives. You also notice that for the face, for the model, her face is not particularly symmetrical. It's very evident on her lip area, where it's like one side is more tilted downwards than the other. I try to emulate that a little bit on my painting. I think having a little bit of asymmetrical feature on the character's face actually makes her somewhat more realistic and appealing. Right now I'm just adding a bit of details to the arm area combining the lasso tool to isolate the particular section, and the feathered brush to blend in. On the jacket again, I'm just going to suggest some details and to sort of hint at the material qualities of this jacket, and it's a leather jacket, by adding some highlights. As for the necklace, I am cheating a little bit, not putting in, more details. As you can see, I'm just again suggesting the details by painting in the highlights. Going back into clean up on the background, making sure that the contrast is of the background and the character is bringing out the character. Over here I'm more or less done, but again I think if given more time I can increase the contrast on the character itself. Like right now the darkest dot isn't black, and the lightest light isn't white, so I think I can improve in that sense. Alright, so that's about it for this particular demo video. And I hope you learned something from it. And yeah, if you have any questions, feel free to ask. And I'll see you in the next video. So now that you watched the demo video, it's time for you to try a still life on your own. I've attached some photos that I've took through my travels in the links below. So take a look, try it out for yourself, and post your results in the comment section. I'll see you in the next video, and remember to have some coffee.